Zoink. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Leprechaun episode on Movie Mondays with Matt. Plus, this is part 2. Okay, so I talked a lot about Leprechaun 1 in the last episode. We're going to talk more about the sequels now. One more thing I wanted to talk about part 1 was just the angles. Oh, I love the shots. Every shot is just, it's amazing. And a lot of the shots, like when you're shooting something, you typically shoot eye level. You want to be at eye level with the audience. In Leprechaun, the eye level's a little bit lower, as though you're seeing everything low-key from the Leprechaun's perspective, although that's not quite what that is. It does change a bit if you're having, there'll be like reverse shots or like back and forth 2 shots of the Leprechaun and then whoever he's tormenting, and then it'll still be like a low angle on the person and a high angle on the Leprechaun. And just almost every angle, when it's not dealing with the Leprechaun like straight up, has like a lower, it's just you kind of looking up at the world. And that was a fun thing to go through and just kind of look at each thing in Leprechaun 1. So, I said it before, I'll say it again, Leprechaun 1993 is brilliant. It's cinema, it is absolute cinema. I love it. So, if you haven't watched Leprechaun, please do. And now we're going to talk about the sequels. And the sequels don't matter where you start, because there's no continuity whatsoever with this franchise. I stopped trying to keep track after part 2. I saw part 2, luckily, right around the time that I saw part 1. And part 1 I will always be a die-hard fan of. It's my childhood. Leprechaun was my childhood. Part 2 is fine. It's a pretty decent sequel. I would kind of rank it. Let me just give you my ranking. 2 might be my next favorite, if not 3. A lot of people are leaning towards 3 as their favorite right now, and 3 has some really good stuff. So 2 and 3 definitely next. 4 will always be my least favorite. Leprechaun in Space. I know it's silly, and that is so bad it's good, part 4. But I didn't like how insane the humor was, and they just went full-on Looney Tunes and bonkers with 4. We'll get into that in a minute. Then there's the 2 In the Hood sequels. 5 and 6 is Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun Back to the Hood. I think those 2 I'd rank about the same. Leprechaun Back to the Hood, I might like a little bit more. There's more action and more gore and more Leprechaun goodness, where it seemed like he kind of took a back seat to, like he wasn't a threat in 4 and 5 as much. In this one, they bring him back to being scary and a threat. Really, the Leprechaun is only scary in part 1. After that, he gets a little more jokey and he gets a little more serious in all the sequels. So the other thing about these movies, okay, I got to keep talking about the rankings. So then that's 5 and 6. 7 is the reboot. Reboot, basically bottom. I think it's worse than 4. It's always going to be at the bottom for most people. It's just, it has nothing to do with the franchise whatsoever. So there's that. And then Leprechaun Returns, part 8, I would put right below 2 and 3. Right below 2 and 3. Well, maybe 5 and 6, and then Leprechaun Returns. It depends. I need to rewatch them. But I'd say for the most part, they're all really good, except for 4 and the reboot. I even like the fan film as well. So anyway, let's get back into part 2. Leprechaun 2 has no real continuity that matters at all. All that matters is that it is Warwick Davis returning to play the Leprechaun again. But that's where the confusion sets in, because it's like, okay, it's the Leprechaun. It's the same Leprechaun from part 1, right? Probably not. It seems like it's a different Leprechaun in each movie because the rules change in each movie. Although it's always Warwick Davis and he behaves the same, the rules change each time. Here's a quick little example which immediately threw me off. Part 1, the leprechaun. He's being silly. He has all these different things he uses. He uses a pogo stick to kill someone. He's got a little bike that he's riding around on. Then he trades in his bike for this little electric car, this little toy electric car, and he's cruising down the highway with it. And a cop sees him and pulls him over and is like, what's going on? And he comes over and he asks, a little young to be out tonight, aren't you? And the leprechaun says, no, I'm 600 years old. 600 years old, okay. We jump to part 2, and he's like 10,000 years old. And it's this whole timeline that starts in ancient Ireland. And he's like, I put a curse on your bloodline. And like every 100 years, it's a new family member, and he's like cursing this bloodline, and it's a whole thing that goes back 1,000 years or 10,000 years, not 600 years. So it's like, okay, the continuity already doesn't make sense here. And then the rules are very different in part 2 as well. Part 1 was all about the 4-leaf clover can stop the leprechaun. And he's a sucker for polished shoes. They were throwing shoes at him, and it was distracting him. None of that is even a thing in part 2. There's this new rule now that wrought iron hurts the leprechaun. And they lock him into a wrought iron safe, and he's getting zapped, and he's in the safe, and he's cursing, and he's trying to get out. It's like, that's a new rule. He was already in a safe in part 1 when he used the pogo stick to attack the pawn shop guy. He was in a safe, and those rules didn't apply in part 1. So already, the rules, they just don't even matter. It's per film, the rules matter. So there is a theory that it is a different leprechaun for each movie, and maybe it is. Don't think too hard about it. Just turn your brain off and enjoy the movie. That's what these movies are all about. So, story set up for Leprechaun 2. As I said, it starts off in ancient Ireland, and the leprechaun, he has a slave who's doing all of his bidding, and he's got a thing on that the leprechaun controls him with. And the leprechaun's like, I will let you go once I claim a bride. And the guy's like, all right, sounds good to me. And then they go to, they're spying on this girl that the leprechaun is going to take as his bride, and it turns out to be the daughter of this guy. And he's like, oh no, you can't be doing that. So he tricks the leprechaun and stops that whole thing and sacrifices himself so that the daughter goes away free. And the leprechaun gets upset and says, I cursed your bloodline, and whoever, 10,000 years from now, whoever is in your bloodline, that's the person I'm going to claim as my bride. And so he just, and it goes through time, or 1,000 years, I'm sorry, I forget. And it goes through time, and then it goes to present day, and it's this new girl, and the leprechaun is trying to get her. And it's her boyfriend intervenes, and, he's an okay character. You get a bunch of comedians in part 2 as well. You get Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard, is briefly in this. You get the lady from SNL. You get Michael McDonald from Mad TV. You got the guy who played Leo, Uncle Leo from Seinfeld. He's in this. He's one of the leads. He's running this haunted tours business out in Hollywood. And then each movie takes place in a different location as well, which is another thing. It's like Bugs Bunny. Each cartoon, his little hole is just somewhere new, and that's kind of what these Leprechaun movies are. So throw logic out the window as far as continuity goes. So anyway, the Leprechaun shows up to claim his bride, and he's going to get her when he loses a shilling. And it rolls away, and the boyfriend tries to intervene, and he sees everything take place. And then he sees this shilling, and he takes it. And there's a new rule now where if you get this shilling, and you're holding the shilling, the leprechaun can't hurt you. New set of rules. So So he goes off and tries to like find, his girlfriend now. And the Leprechaun, he has this whole underground thing. It was a really cool set piece, actually. What else? There's the Haunted Tour going on, and then you see little, what's his name? Tony he shows up. He was in a Bad Santa. He was the little elf in Bad Santa. He shows up briefly, man, he had a lot of random celebrities in part 2. Anyway, 2 is enjoyable. Leprechaun's in the big city, and then there's a whole struggle in his house at the end, and the girlfriend is freed, and yay, happily ever after. It's a fun movie. It's not as fun as part 1, and this is where you can see Warwick Davis really owns this Leprechaun character. It's almost like part 1 he was kind of figuring it out. Well, part 2 he is the Leprechaun. He just is, and that is the same performance you'll see going forward. And it's a little more jokey, a little more serious. No scares, really, in part 2. That's one of the issues I had with part 2. That's part 2, which isn't bad. And that came out, so part 1, 93. Part 2 came out in 94. Part 3 came out in 95. And then part 4 followed in suit in 96. So let's talk about part 3 now. Leprechaun in Vegas, they should have called it, because that's exactly what it is. Very fun movie. I don't know, I might lean towards 3 a little bit more in the order of the ones I like. 3 is great. 3 also has a brand new set of rules now. Now, Leprechaun shows up, once again, unannounced, doing his thing. And he's like fighting with this pawn shop guy. There's this new rule where there can be 2 leprechauns, and the leprechauns are territorial, and leprechauns like to eat potatoes now. And there's another thing where if you get one of the leprechaun shillings, once again, you get to make a wish. And so that's a totally new plot element. And so that goes a long way in Las Vegas. There's like another young male lead who's like down on his luck, and he's losing his shirt in Las Vegas, and he accidentally stumbles upon the leprechaun's gold piece, and he makes a wish that he'd like win big, and he's winning all this stuff, and he like meets a girl out there who like works for this wacky magician, and there's a lot of social commentary in that one as well. And that's just an all-around fun Leprechaun movie. So definitely check that one out if you haven't. What else is there to say about it? Another couple of random celebrities do pop up in that one. And that's Leprechaun 3. And that was a good one. Now, we're going to talk about Leprechaun 4, my least favorite. A lot of people like this one. A lot of people, it's their favorite one. I thought it went way too far into the insanity. I couldn't take the series serious anymore after 4. So Leprechaun 4 in Space, it is called. Leprechaun 4 in Space, and that is what it is. He's in space, and for some reason, Leprechaun, he's like trying to marry this princess so he can like gain some sort of social it doesn't even make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And it's a new set of rules again, and it's this big spaceship. And honestly, I wasn't a fan of any of the characters in this one. I wasn't a fan of the setup or the insanity. There's this crazy doctor guy on the ship. I didn't like him. There's a crazy general guy. I didn't like him. The male lead I didn't like. The female lead was okay. There's just too much going on in part 4. It's just my least favorite one. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And all the fun has been removed from the series by part 4. There's just nothing fun happening. And it's kind of lazy as well. And case in point, the Leprechaun does not rhyme in part 4. He's rhymed in all the previous ones. Not this one. He just wasn't in the rhyming mood in part 4. So, yeah. 4 is a drag. I don't like it. And it killed the franchise for a little while. It was only a few years, but it did kill the franchise. And then thank God Scream swooped in and just rebooted horror entirely. And then horror was okay again in the 90s. So, 4, I wouldn't recommend it, but a lot of people do. A lot of people like to watch only that one because of how insane it is. It is straight up Looney Tunes. There's like a part where like a pan flies across the room and it hits a guy in the face, and then his head becomes the shape of the pan, like straight up cartoon Looney Tunes. And it wasn't a fun, joyous movie as far as I'm concerned. So I usually skip 4 unless the people I'm with twist my arm into watching it. Because 4 just, it killed the franchise. Anyway, I'm done talking about 4. Let me show you one quick little thing here before we toss a break and continue our little Leprechaun chat. So I want to show you, 1 year ago, I got to be on the morning show wearing this exact costume. And I played a little round of Leprechaun's Twicky Twivia. And I'm just going to show you that real quick like. Okay, so here we are. This was my first regular appearance on the show outside of just being the King of Halloween. And it was kind of like an oddball situation because they just kind of sprung this on me day of. They were like, oh, by the way, you're going to be at the end of the show. You're going to be on the TV today. Just come up with something for St. Patrick's Day. And this was like Sydney's idea, and I think Natalie Hepner's a little bit as well. And so I tried to come up with a Twivia question. I asked, how many Leprechaun movies are there? Whoever can guess can get a prize. And so Price is Right rules. They all took a turn guessing here. And that's the first thing I thought of was, hey, Leprechaun. So I think they're about to guess here. And it was just a cute, fun little appearance here just a few months before Movie Mondays with Matt was launched. And then that was, now you see too much of me all the time. All right, here we are. Tony Nargi won. Here's the prize I provided for him. The Leprechaun shirt that I wore in that day. Slightly used Leprechaun shirt. Oh, I miss Tony Nargi. What a class act. Brendan's awesome, but Tony Nargi and I were on the exact same wavelength. That guy just, lucky the Leprechaun. There we go. You can see my little pantaloons a little bit there. And then I was just causing mischief throughout the day here. And here I am under the desk during a live shot, looking around, being all spooky. Anyway. And Hannah didn't know what to think about it. It was great. Joink. All right. Back on cam. Yay! I'm glad I was able to share that with you because it's not part of the original Movie Mondays lineup. So there it is. I had to kill the audio because the audio board's a little weird back here, and sometimes mics work, sometimes they don't, sometimes they overpower what's going on. It's a whole thing. So now that stuff's out of the way, we talked about Leprechaun 1 through 4. Now we're going to throw it a break. We're going to keep talking about the Leprechaun franchise here. We're going to talk about Leprechaun 5 through 8 now when we come back. So in the meantime, hang tight, me friends, and I'll be back in just a minute. Joink.